Greetings to all the viewers who are watching, and a big welcome to Mad About Sports. I'm Antriksh, and today we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Sayak Ghosh, who's the founder and CEO of StepOut, which is an online ecosystem based on performance analysis in sports. Mr. Shayak is no stranger to sports, and especially football, as he has previously worked in EA Sports for FIFA 19 as a data analyst and data reviewer. It's an honor to have you, sir.
Thank you, thank you. It's such a pleasure to be a part of this show. Thanks a lot
Th-
for having me.
Thank you so much for coming, sir. Thank you so much. So, obviously, I'll begin with the big question. How did you come out with the idea of creating Step Out, especially revolving around the Indian ecosystem?
To be very honest, it all started with a long growing pain that was all. I mean, that was always inside all of us, and that is like even being a country of billion, why can't we produce those 11 players who can take our nation to the next level? And with that, we thought if only we could have the data of all the players, then we could easily find out who would be the best starting 11 against as per the opposition requires. But like it's easier said than done because we of course don't have the data of all the players. And data analytics was limited to the top tier pyramid only. So if you're a top tier club or a player playing in the prime level, then only you can have your data. But to our understanding, this was a huge pain point because if you compare academics with sports development, you go to school, you have your examinations, you get results, and based on that, you can understand on what aspects you're good at, what skills do you have, in which areas you need to improve, where you've done silly mistakes, and so on. But if you look at traditional sports development, you go out on the pitch, you perform, you play, and then you come back home. So there's no significant performance measure available. So after the match, if you want to have any type of reference, all you can do is maybe like close your eyes and memorize. And even then, we tend to remember the goals we scored, not the shots we flew off the way around the bar. So that's why we wanted to create a uh, ecosystem where the players can also have the performance metrics, performance references, and also the teams can have a better judgment of like how to prepare for against a certain opposition, how the tactics they are approaching, what would be the preparation towards the game, and after the match is done, they can also evaluate whether the strategies or the tactics etc. has been executed or not. What were the pain points? What were the issues that they could not cover? So this is where the idea came into us, and we started working, uh, and slowly we started getting one club, two club, three clubs who started using our platform, and now we have a few clubs, and we are now looking at foreign clubs as well. So let's see where this journey takes us.
Wonderful. Wonderful, sir. That was a very modest and a nostalgic take on how the humble beginnings of such a company has started. So, revolving around that, I would like to ask you. So, as you've just said, that was it the Indian context or was it the dynamic international context that sort of motivated you more to launch this company?
To be honest, it was primarily the Indian context, but of course, I mean, we are all fans of European football. We all have our sacred clubs over there. So yes, the idea, the passion was always there. So that if possible, we could create a technology that could be not only utilized by the ecosystem in India, but all across the world. Because if you look at the issue, if you look at the problem, it's not that only it's there in India. Even if you go into European clubs, even if you go to UK, even their youth academies do not have this data-driven performance analysis systems. So we thought that if we could utilize this gap in the market to bring together the entire football ecosystem, then going ahead, maybe a 13-year-old Indian kid will be able to understand and compare his performance with the 13-year-old UK player, UK aspiring footballer. So that provides the player with an understanding of where he's standing with respect to the person at whose level he wants to achieve. So that's the bigger goal, you can say. So that's how we are proceeding now, and let's see how it goes.
Wow, wow. Really got me when you said how an Indian 13-year-old could compare himself to a UK 13-year-old. And you just touched about the sacred clubs. Could I ask you which is yours in the European
It's
context?
it's Real Madrid.
It's Real Madrid, of course, the Galacticos. Right, so as we touched European football, and we recently know that you had rich experience getting a prize from Ajax, and it's such a big European club with such a long and diverse history. So let us know about that. How was the experience?
So it all started with me going through LinkedIn and suddenly stumbling upon a link saying Reimagine Football hosted by UEFA, Ajax, KNVB, etc. So we thought, why not? Why not? At least let's just participate and see what happens. So we participated. The initial reaction was pretty good. Then we got an invitation from the Johan Cruyff Arena to attend the event, but of course, the journey from India to Amsterdam is a long journey, so we decided to participate remotely, virtually. And in the event, we so
Okay.
initially there were, I think, around 100, 150 participants. Among them, about 10 to 15 were shortlisted as the finalists. So there were multiple categories. We were shortlisted in the category of champion learning and performance. And in
Okay.
this category, I believe there were 5 to 6 startups from like shortlisted throughout the globe. And here we got the chance to speak with the Ajax data science team. So their data science head, as well as the other teams who have been working for more than 10 years with Ajax. They sat with us. We discussed the entire platform, what are the features, how we can improve the player performances, how we can use gamification to motivate young players to not just stay in their rooms but get out on the pitch and develop their talent. So, and after that, it was a very enlightening conversation. So we got to know so much about their standards, how they operate. So they have different age categories. So for example, here in India, when we are playing in an under 18 league, you'll see most of the players are age 17 years old. So where does it lead the 16-year-old and 15-year-olds? Because the next category is under 15. So they have an
Yeah.
average age criteria for different categories, and that I mean that gave us the idea that there's so much more to do, and hopefully, luckily, fortunately, they really loved our platform, and now they've started a pilot project with us, and their youth teams have been utilizing our softwares and our technology. So that's the entire scenario with Ajax, and it's
Wow.
the modesty they have. It's awesome. I've been speaking with a lot of clubs in India as well and in abroad, but I mean they won't make you feel that they're sitting and Ajax. It felt as if I'm speaking to a friend about next generational ideas about how to develop football, and that's how it started, and it's now going. Let's see what happens in the future.
Yes. For sure, man, for sure. I'm so excited and so proud to be, talking to you and talking to an Indian company who's just talked to Ajax and, they've won something so big. And you talked about how modest people there in Amsterdam were. But it feels like you're the modest one here. You've just won the whole competition and you're talking here what's going to happen in the future. And talking about academies, they don't get much better than Ajax's. And, the proud heritage they run in their academies, and we all know about the products they keep on coming with,
Mhm.
team after team, year after year. So there must be a lot of analysis going in, as you said, a pilot project. And as the exterior football fan, the typical football fan, it's about goals and assists primarily, but now maybe about distance covered or passes into the final third, receptions into the final third, and all of that. But can you, from a very analytic point of view, tell me, like, how can sports teams use these analytics for their betterment?
Yes, of course. So, for example, you're a football team and you're playing against a very attacking opposition. So the opposition who presses very hard, who plays a lot of passes, then in that case, would you require how what type of players would you choose against that team? So in that case, you need to win the ball back, right? Against a team who holds maximum possession. So in that case, you need players who has ball recoveries, interceptions, etc. And say, for example, you're looking at a player who has an average ball recoveries of 4 to 5 ball recoveries for
Yeah.
90. That means if you play him, he will at least get 4 out of 5 ball possession from your opposition. So these are how stats help to identify issues and how you can have an approach towards solving them. It's much better than just to have an idea. Okay, if I play this player, then I might win. That doesn't happen anymore. Now there's
Yeah.
so many data, so many analysis going on. So, for example, let's look at the example of Casemiro, who came. I mean, unfortunately, went from Real Madrid to Manchester United very recently. So, I mean, he's not a player who can make, I mean, 40, 50 yards long passes, right? But he's very instrumental when it comes to those I mean, cutting the passing lanes, making those last interceptions, short blocks, etc. So these are the areas where you can identify a player who will fit into the system and who will be able to take your team to a next level. Because when you have the data and when you have the analysis, you can easily understand which are the areas on you are not being able to perform at that level, right? And so, for example, you have wingers who like puts in 4 or 5 crosses in every match. So in every match, you're having 8 to 9 crosses in the penalty box. But so, for example, now you have a forward who is short. So that crosses won't make any effect, right? So now you need to have a striker who has more aerial duel win rate, who has more headers won in the opposition penalty box. So this is how you can identify talents or identify players, and you can bring into your existing system so that together the system works perfectly. Together the system can execute what you want to do with the players. Because previously we used to see only the dazzling moments like Ronaldinho dribbling past four, five
Yeah.
players or Zidane doing a roulette or 360 degree. But if you look into the modern football, slowly that number 10 role is fading away. It's so high pressing that no one is, whenever a player like Zidane is having the ball, he will get pressed by 4 or 5 players. Then so little he can do, right? So right now the requirements of modern football is different. Right now the strategies, the tactics, everything is changing. I mean, with the years passing by. So football analytics or data analytics now holds a huge importance. Whether you'll be able to win a match or not. Like right now, we see clubs from lower tier divisions coming and competing so well with the professional, with top tier leagues. Data analytics has really helped them because now the playing field is level. Even if you have a squad value of 1 million and you're competing against a squad value of 100 million, that club also understand what are the weaknesses you have, and they can exploit that.
Yeah.
So I believe data analytics, apart from making it much more evident, much more bringing it onto the limelight, the talents, etc., it has also helped making the playing field more even for both side of the players.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, clubs like Leipzig, who've been barely in existence for like 10 years, have just grown through the ranks, and now they're one of the top teams that emerged from the German Bundesliga. And all of
Yes.
this talk about analytics and how and what actually helps teams, and how we level the even playing field. The next question would be, how would a typical day of a step out analyst look like?
A typical day of a StepOut analyst would look like they have kind of 2 types of jobs. One is to like collect the data. So first of all, you collect the data from the match video. We have our IP software for that. So we provide it to them. It's kind of like a joystick kind of a scenario where you have a gamepad UI in your mobile, and you can watch the match on laptop or other tablets, etc. You can easily collect the data, and after the data collection is done, we have our data visualization and analysis application as well. So we utilize that to generate further insights, and then we provide consultancies to our clubs. So, for example, our analysts, they get the opportunity to present what they feel and what they think based on data-driven evidences, and they present to like head coaches of I-League clubs, to the head coaches of I-League qualifier clubs. Sometimes they sit with analysts of a professional club and they tell them their insights. They tell them what are the approaches that are being executed and what are not being able to execute by the players. What type of different approaches we can take, and all these things are based by visual data as well as video analysis. So here, I mean, when an analyst gets onboarded on Step Out, I tell him the only thing that I tell him is that, I mean, previous to this, we always had so many ideas about how our team should play. Why is this player being played? Why is this approach being taken? And right now, you have the opportunity of getting hurt, and not by, I mean, not getting
Yeah.
hurt by anyone, by the head coaches, the decision makers of the team. So you have the now you have that ability to actually implement your analytical ideas and help a team perform better. And I believe like the teams that have worked with us, they have benefited, I mean, immensely. Like back to back I-League qualifiers. I mean, the qualifying team were a partner club of ours. Initially, it was Mohammedan, then it was Rajasthan United. And I mean, with these teams, we provide every after every match, we provide post-match analysis. After every upcoming match, we provide opposition analysis so that even they can perform their best and they can utilize the best resources they have and execute the game plan that fits best with the team's perspective as well. So that's how our analysts. I mean, I believe they really have a pretty fun time working around football and
Yeah.
going through researching new tactics, new strategies, and then trying to implement with the current scenario with the team. So that's how it goes.
I mean, yeah, someone maybe who's interested in analytics and someone who's also a football fan, that will be the dream job for the person, and maybe you're giving them the platform to do so. And as we just touched upon the I League and the Indian football, I have to ask you this question about, we all know the big dark news that recently came about the Indian football. So, what are your thoughts about the recent FIFA ban on it, on us? And where do you think, due to that or irrespective of that, the Indian future football is heading?
Uh, I mean, before even FIFA ban, we need to think that in 1970s or 60s, we used to compete in Olympics. We used to draw against sides again, like France. Our players used to get transfer offers from Tottenham, and now we are a 100 ranked country whose players, even if they get a contract with a UK club, they won't be able to perform because we are not within the top 50 ranking clubs in our country. So if you look at the downfall, I mean, there must have been so many reasons, and some of the reasons are coming to broad daylight now. And to be honest, I believe there's a lot of, I mean, lot of shaking that needs to be done with respect to Indian football and the governing bodies, because I mean, yes, we have created brands, we have created big clubs. I mean, but where is it taking? Yes, the commercial values have increased. I mean, exponentially they have increased. But if you don't have a promotion relegation system where a small club can actually go forward and make it to the biggest stage, then why would the rest of the ecosystem want to participate? Why would rest of the clubs that, I mean, there are 10, 12 clubs in ISL and there are hundreds of other clubs, no, non-ISL clubs. Then what is the motivational factor behind those? I mean, driving those non-ISL clubs, right? Because
Yeah.
there's only one level you can reach, and that level is not good enough to give you some ROI. So I believe, I mean, irrespective of whether FIFA banned us or not, a lot of things were required to be changed. I think FIFA ban kind of highlights what are the issues, the underlying issues, and right now I believe the fans of Indian football, and not just Indian football, even European football fans who are kind of ignorant about Indian football, should also come in and raise their voices, because it's high time we need to change. Because if you look into the European football supporters who doesn't watch Indian football, why don't they watch? Because they don't see the quality. And I mean, if the things doesn't change for better, how will the quality come? Because the national team will only select players from the 12 top teams. I mean, that's like selecting 10 players when you have a pool of 1,000 players available. And it's impossible that those 1,000 players don't have the value, don't have the talent. you
Yeah.
you need to look into them. So I mean, irrespective of whether FIFA bans get, I mean, it's lifted or not, we get the opportunity to host under 17 World Cup or not. I think we need to change things first, because if we don't change things, and I mean we just comply with FIFA and we just go ahead with whatever was being done, then it's again 10, 20 years. I mean, that's setting us back. It's a big
Yeah.
setback. We have been speaking when we will play in the World Cup, maybe 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, but we need to start at least, right? If we start now, then it's 20 years from now on. If we
Mm.
start 10 years later, then it's 30 years from now on. So I believe, irrespective of what happens with the FIFA ban, yes, our domestic leagues are happening. Yes, AFC Cup spots, etc., are a bit of dicey right now. But I believe they will get the chance to play. I don't think. I mean, I think FIFA is already speaking with AIFF officials and the COA so as to see how things can be. Things can get easier for us. But I think we need to take the opportunity and make things better right now, right ahead. So that's my
For
perspective on
sure, man.
it, actually.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so long-term solutions rather than short-term fixes,
Yes,
basically. And
yes,
irrespective of the FIFA ban, I mean, the story, what sport really is about. That anyone, you could be of the highest stature, of the highest nature, but anyone on your day can beat you. Stories like
yes,
Leicester City winning the Premier League, and all of those stories, relegation favorites the previous season and champions of England the next. So, stories like these. And yes, when there is no relegation, promotion, there is no sense of, that underdog being able to
yes,
take the ultimate dream. So yeah, that is for sure a big, and it sort of pains, because right now, obviously there are two sides to football, at least in the modern times, which is the commercial side, but also the soul of football, which doesn't need to, which just cannot go away. And it sort of pains that the commercial side of Indian football was at least rising, but not at the cost of selling out its soul. Like the
hmm,
likes of Mumbai City FC being, I mean, bought up by the City Group, and the Atletico a Kolkata with Madrid collaboration, the preseason friendlies we saw, and all of that. So it kind of pains that probably the worst possible time that we've been hit by it, but we have to move on. And coming
hmm.
back to European football, sir, you mentioned that you're personally a fan of Real Madrid, the Galacticos, and you made a cheeky comment about you not being happy that Casemiro is leaving. Well, I'm really happy, not by the sum, which was 70 million, but because I'm a United fan, but really by the profile of the player. As we had been lacking a proper CDM. We even signed Matic, which doesn't really reflect because he was in his dying years. But anyways, you support Real Madrid. So do you personally keep a check on a stats and your way, a very step outish way on the players of Real Madrid, and do you look at these stats from your own company's point of view? Like, do you have a keen interest in them?
To be very honest, I mean, yes, we did a few match analysis on Real Madrid. I mean, based on my request, actually. So,
Of course.
yeah, actually, we did. But I mean, most of the time when I watch Real Madrid, I want to watch it as a fan, not as an analyst, because I mean, yes, I work in the football industry, but then if I mix, still I need to have a fine line between work and entertainment, right? I mean,
For sure.
when I'm watching Madrid's matches, I'm like a fan. I'm not an entrepreneur or an analyst. So most of all, I also shout at the players when they're not being able to make a pass or when there's a loose ball, etc. So yeah, I mean, yes, there are analytical case studies that we have done, but like from a personal perspective, I try to be a fan rather than all the other aspects when I watch my team's matches. But whenever I watch my like EPL matches or like my friends are there who are supporting some EPL teams, I try to bring out the analytical person in me, and I try to tell them what are the issues and what are the ways the problems might be solved. Like for example, for United, Casemiro is, I mean, it's a great option, but then again, United actually need a player who could distribute the ball from their back line
Yeah.
because the defenders you've got and the goalkeeper you've got, they're not ball players. Like even
Yeah.
Varane, I would say, he also went from Real Madrid, but he has never been a good ball distributor. I mean, he has costed us, I mean, Champions League spots against Man City last season.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you need someone who can also play in those pocket areas. Like, for example, in Real Madrid, what they used to do when Casemiro used to intercept, he always had Toni Kroos beside him, and it was his easiest job. Just make a short pass to Toni Kroos, and then Toni Kroos can pass it to anywhere on the pitch. So, I believe that is also a requirement because when you're playing against teams who are pressing you so hard, you need to have a good counter pressing options, and counter pressing can be done through short passes. But if you have someone like Tony Cruz on your team, yes, it's very difficult to have someone like Tony Cruz on your team. But if you have someone who
Exactly.
can distribute the ball to any area, any like low pressure zones on the pitch, and through there you can attack. So I mean Casemiro will help you stop conceding goals. But let's see if he can help. I mean, if the team can capitalize his inputs in terms of getting some goals for their team as well.
Right. Yeah. 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 A very again analytical take on the Casemiro signing, but it's good. But it's good to know that you're watching Real Madrid games as a fan and not as Carlo Ancelotti's assistant. So
No, I would have loved
that's
to
pretty
do
cool
that,
to know.
but yeah,
Yeah, as much as you would have loved to actually be there, but yeah, it's fine because the entertainment, the fan
yes,
element can never go out because that is the
yes,
base of probably you starting the whole company in the first place. So
yes,
yeah,
of course.
exactly. And having this chance to converse with you and just knowing that you're also a very modest, humble human being and a football fanatic at heart, it actually excites me because I'm personally someone who loves numbers. I'm personally someone who you would understand loves football as well. So I mean, even to me personally, but to any aspiring football analyst out there, what are these few tips that you would like to share out?
To be very honest, I mean, when I started my journey, the only way I could have started was like going through all the materials that are available online. So right now, if you just go and search, you'll see there's so many things out there. Yes, you will have to understand them on your own, but there are, of course, great courses out there as well. So you guys have already been, I mean, providing such great insights to a young aspirant analyst, and I believe that helps them a lot. And other than that, I believe there's a few YouTube channels as well who can provide you with a very good understanding of like what you're looking at, what is the career that you're looking at. Because like from outside, you might think it's okay. I'll be working with football. Okay, this is such a great thing because I have passion. Yeah, but I mean, it's not an easy job. I mean, you have to sit and watch matches, hundreds and hundreds of actions. You need to closely monitor them. You need to provide very detailed analytical ideas, analytical outcomes to your coaches going ahead. So, like, and here you have to perform at your best. You cannot have a day where you don't feel like working because if you do that, then your team is gonna suffer. So it's a very high demanding job, but at the end of the day, when your friends are asking what job you do, mostly you can say that I'm doing something that I'm passionate about. I have to watch football matches. So when I tell my friends, I mean, sorry, I can't go to this party. I have a football match to watch. Most of them laughs at me.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
but then again, like that's why we didn't go for our traditional engineering jobs when we
yeah,
started this, and I believe that motivation works. And when you do
yeah,
something you're passionate about, you can deal with a lot of things that doesn't work in your favor. So I believe there's a lot of scope because performance analysis, data analysis, this is becoming such a great trend, such a big trend, and this is a core area because if a team has a performance analyst, it's 100% sure that they are working on their weaknesses, then they are
yeah,
working on developing new strategies, and this directly affects how a team performs on the pitch. So I believe, like even in India, this domain, this industry is starting to rise. It's just in its inception, but it's starting to rise and going ahead. I believe a lot of state level clubs, a lot of qualifier clubs will also start hiring analysts apart from ISL and I League clubs. So going ahead, I believe you need to, as an aspiring analyst, you need to keep an eye out. You need to understand those numbers, what those numbers are telling you, because that's where you can stand out. Because everyone can log into a website and see, okay, he has done this many key passes, this many XG, XT. There's so many things out there now, but how you implement that, I implement that insight in terms of in I mean in terms of increasing your team's performance, in terms of better team's betterment, that's where you can actually create a difference. So, I mean, as an aspiring analyst, you should watch a lot of videos. There's a lot of YouTube channels right now who provide tactical understanding,
yeah.
data analysis as well, and that way you can grow.
Right. That's a rich, deep insight. As far as the analytical football analytical jobs are concerned, that it looks shiny on the outside, and if you're passionate, it is shiny on the inside, but it is hard work as well. It is a lot of
Yes.
match watching, as you just mentioned, and as comical as that sounds, that is the day-to-day job when you get serious about it. So yeah, perfect, perfect. Any sort of last thoughts, any sort of summarizations that you would want to present right now?
To be very honest, like even we at StepOut has just started our journey. So we believe it's a long journey and there will be many ups and downs coming ahead. I mean, but the sole motivation will always be how to take Indian football to a next level, how to enable a much more larger audience with data-driven decision making, and I mean how to create a better exposure. I mean how to expose more talents towards these top flight teams. So we are working on that, and going ahead, we are going to launch an ecosystem through which players who are already using our platforms or clubs who are already using our platform can utilize it to apply to different clubs to search for new talents. So that, like for example, if you're a player playing in an academy, then and even if you're the best player, even then there might be like 90% of chances is that you won't be able to make into a professional football aspect. Like if you look at the UK, even 70% of the players who play in a, I mean, Premier League academy doesn't make it to a professional level. Why? There's such a huge dropout rate. There's no system that are binding them together. There's no scouting tool, I mean, which provides a grassroots approach as well, which takes the grassroots talents to the top tier and provides them exposure. So that is a way we are also looking forward to. Apart from performance analysis, we are trying to create an ecosystem. And apart from that, we are also trying to create a gamification aspect of the game as well. Like, for example, you go out and play on the pitch, but there's digital leaderboards, there's digital rewards that the clubs can give you, the badges, the achievements. so that it feels like you're playing the game on the pitch, but all the aspects that hooks you with FIFA are also there. So it feels like you're playing the pitch on the sport, but the
Wow.
esports gamification is still
Wow.
with you. So that's the approach we are taking. That's the future steps that we have in our mind, and we're walking towards it. And going ahead, of course, the final goal would be an under 13 Indian footballer would get the exposure of a club like Ajax, or or he can have a reference of how a 13-year-old player at Ajax Academy is, what are his statistics, what are his expertise, and how he can bridge the gap. So that would be our way forward, and that's the stride we are taking to in a pursuit to make Indian football, and not just Indian football, the global footballing ecosystem, to a next level.
Wow. Wow. That's so beautiful, to be honest. Listening to it as an Indian, wow, sort of taking our talents abroad and aiding to what we believe can be an emerging football nation in the coming years if we fulfill our potential. What an insightful
Yes.
conversation, sir. It was a pleasure talking to you. I mean, just looking at how humble and modest the beginnings of you and your company have been, and how every one of us, and I'm sure each one of the viewers could relate to it as you spoke every word. So thank you so much for the insightful conversation, sir.
Thank you. Thanks a
And
lot.
as thank you. And even as Sir touched out here about at Mad About Sports, we offer a lot of courses for the aspiring football analysts, and to all the viewers who are really interested, do check out Mad About Sports, and do subscribe to the channel for these more insightful analytical conversations that we'll have here. Thank you so much to everyone who joined in. Thank you so much to Sir, and we will speak to you in a bit.